Hello there and welcome back. My name is Elena.
And I'm Fotios, and this is the Game Court.
And today is Game Review Day.
And today we're reviewing Ezra and Nehemiah. Ezra and Nehemiah is a 1 to 4 player game designed by Sam Phillips and Sam Macdonald and published by Garphill Games and is part of their ancient anthology.
In this game, you will try to rebuild the walls and the temple in the wait for the exiles of ancient Jerusalem of some sort.
The game is played over 3 rounds, and each round consists of 7 phases. 6 of these phases are basically the turns of the players, and the 7th phase is Sabbath.
Sabbath, like Sunday.
Sunday, exactly.
Like Sunday, but
where we rest.
Jewish Sunday, innit?
Exactly, where we rest, where we feed our people, and then we take some good or bad jujus.
And I have to say, if you actually pointed towards that first, although we normally have like a structure where we talk about like actions and stuff like that, I think this is the first time we play a game from Garphill Games that has bad things happening to you. Most of the times, you know, it's all very bountiful and plenty of resources and plenty of everything. Whereas here you start with 10 points, and you start with 10 points because you were going to lose points from the beginning. And then you pay a lot of food, which is quite surprising.
Well, if you want to go this way, it's one of the few Garphill games that we own that actually have a point track around the board.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes,
that's quite different.
Like Paladins, for instance, doesn't have one. Viscounts doesn't have one. Scholars doesn't have one. The other game that we have that has a point counter around is Raiders. But there you don't lose points, really.
Anyhow, let's go backwards a little bit to the actions. So technically what you do in this game is you try to rebuild the wall, which most of it has been destroyed. And you will have to build parts of the wall or the gates themselves, and each and every one of them give you different kind of benefits. You have different cards that give you perks in your hands where you can put instead of walls, or gates that when people use them as a secondary action from their cards, you get a benefit of that.
Apart from constructing the wall or reconstructing the wall, another thing you can do in this game, of course, is to go to a temple. And you have 2 options there. You have you can rebuild the temple or temple floor.
It's a lot of building in this game, isn't it?
Exactly. Or you can basically put some wood or cinder to the altar to keep the fire burning. And this is one of the tracks of the game.
And lastly but not least, you can go outside the walls and do some traveling.
Well,
fashionable.
In a circle, basically in a circle, right?
It's a teeny tiny circle where you just go like around, and then you get some like benefits and stuff like that, which is not bad, but I think it's like...
It's quite good benefits, yeah.
It's good benefits, but like I think the name is just a bit overpowering. Or you can go and teach the Torah, which is technically like a tech tree, and you go up, use your scribes and like get benefits, ongoing benefits for the game, or you can get like end game benefits and game points for the top.
And how you activate all of these actions is through banners of 3 different colors. Is grey for building and clearing the rubble, is red for the religious stuff, altar and temple, and is blue for the scribing and for the traveling.
And I think that's their main selling point, if you wish. I think this is how the game is all around all these banners. Every player has a different deck of cards. We all have the same cards on our hands, and every card has a different banner or a combination of banners.
Now the system that is used in this game, it reminds me of Viscounts in the sense that you collect these icons, and the more icons you have, the more powerful your action is. In this case you have banners, the 3 color banners. And within each of your 6 turns in the round, what you do, you play a card on your tableau, and you have 3 spaces for the card. So you play a card, then next round you play another card, and the banners start accumulating, and then you place another card, and yet again accumulate. And then on the 4th one, you start covering cards. So you have 3 piles, and you have up to 2 cards per pile.
And you would expect right at this point, let me just put my coffee down because I'm going to get excited. And you'd expect at this point, like most of the games that you've played, you would place a card, slide it over, and place another, and then slide them over, and then you will eventually discard that
like
card.
The Viscounts, right? Yes.
No. You just place them on top.
On top, yes.
And then you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Quite a clever mechanic.
And it really matters which card you place, not only for the banners and the actions you want to activate, but also the card you play is going to give you opportunities when it comes to trading. That's the bottom part of the card. But also, one of the 6 cards that you have played at the end of the round during the Sabbath, you're going to take it and it will become a scoring card for you, which is going to score at the end of every round during every Sabbath.
Plus, it gives you, doesn't it give you like, it gives you a permanent flag as well.
A permanent banner, yes,
Yep.
correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Which is nice because, they cost a lot. And I mean, like, and you pay food for everybody.
Yes. But of course, the game allows you to also take extra banners or extra resources, if you wish, by putting some your workers out. If you put them in a space that is representing the traders, you get some stuff, so maybe some money or a resource. If you put it in a space that represents the elder, I think it is, then you get some extra banners and some other cool stuff.
And out of the million gazillion people that you have, meeples, workers, that you have that you can place onto your board, you can place them also onto the main board. And you can place them in places like the gates, that you can make them gatekeepers and they will look after that. Or you can use them as teachers, as scribes, and they teach the Torah in the tech tree in the middle. Or you can transform them into Levites, and that will dictate how many actions you can take within the temple itself.
And by the way, if you didn't know what a million gazillion means in this particular context, it means exactly 16 workers. And I think you start with 6 of them maybe, but as the game progresses you get more workers. And if you manage to finish your round with some workers left over, then
that's pretty juicy.
Yeah, then you can assign them as basically builders, which give you some material, or as farmers, which give you food.
And now that we're talking about food, this I think is the first game we played from them that requires you to pay food for the people. The only people that do not need to be fed are the Levites. Everybody else needs a food. And you start with a lot of people, right? So there are a lot of people that need food. You need to have a lot of food. And then you lose, how many points do you lose? Is it 1 or 2 points?
It's 2 points per Levite, not per Levite,
food.
per worker you cannot feed, yes.
So hence you start with 10 points, which makes a lot of sense, right? But everybody needs to be fed. Plus, if you have some leftover workers, you can transform them into farmers. That will give you some extra food. But all in all, though, it's a lot of food that you need to pay.
I would like to make 2 observations here. First of all, 2 observations.
One
First
at
of
a
all,
time, please.
even if you don't have to feed the Levites at the end of the round, to place them there, you still have to consume bread.
Yeah,
anyway.
I know. When you put it, that's correct.
Exactly.
Right? Like all the Levites need, like, the more Levites you put, the more they require food. So, the fourth one will need like 4 or 5 foods or something crazy like that. So it's quite expensive to put them in there. They're not free or cheap.
And the second observation I would like to make.
Second?
Yes. I think Shem and Sam, what they did, they played Agricola or Caverna. And then they said, okay, let's design a game also with feeding.
This is the future.
Yeah.
It's a lot of food you need to pay. Yeah.
And if you thought the game is already too complex, we have more for you. It's not done yet. So another consideration in the game is that in your personal board you have these tiles. There are 5 of them. They're called, I think, development tiles, and they represent different functions.
Oh, guess what you do with them?
You flip them, yes. You develop them. One of them basically is your inventory, and if it is unflipped, you have a particular number of resources you can hold there. But if you flip it, it gives you an immediate benefit and infinite storage opportunities. Infinite. And another one's for the farmers, for the builders, for the traders, so you can upgrade all of them. And of course, upgrade them give you some points, but also some more juicy rewards later on.
They become quite juicy, isn't it? The more you upgrade, this is how we played the last time we played. This is how I played.
10 developments.
It is like I developed everything, and it was pretty nice. Within the temple, apart from the Levites, you have the temple itself that you need to build, and you have the altar, which you will have to feed wood and cinder in to keep the flame going. In the middle of it all, you have 2 little prophets that represent kind of like the middle of the track, I'd say, something like that. Well, technically, what you have is before the prophets, in the middle of the prophets, and after the prophets, kind of thing. So you have scoring at each Sabbath, and every time you score, whomever is in front of them, behind them, or in the middle will get different kind of benefits. That's kind of the gist of it, really.
And at the end of every Sabbath, they're going to move a bit further in the track.
Every Sabbath, they move over.
So in that sense, the altar track is quite important. You have to be on top of that. And also, if you have the altar leader, resolves all the ties in the game.
Then you get a lot of benefits as well. It's very important to be at the top.
Very quickly to mention that the game comes with a gazillion resources.
Gazillion is how many?
Gazillion, it's 5. Yes.
How many in gazillion? 16.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So gazillion is just 5. So apart from coins coins, yes, actually 6 because we have the food as well. So gazillion is 6. So apart from coins,
That makes sense. Million, gazillion, 16.
I see. Then you have the food as well that you have to feed people at the end of every round during each Sabbath. But then you have, of course, gold, which is mostly used to build a temple, but is also used sometimes as wild building material and also for some developments. You have the stone and the wood, which are used mostly for building the walls and the gates around the board, but you can also put them in the temple and in the altar. And then you have the cinder, the most, let's say, unimportant one, which is mostly used for the altar fire, but also around the table.
Yeah, you can develop some stuff on your board, but it's mainly to burn, isn't it? This game looks very familiar because the artist is the same artist as Adrian's Woe and Raiders of Scythia.
And Legacy of You.
And Legacies of You, Legacy of You,
But
of
you
course.
wouldn't know it because it's a solo game, right?
Well, I know it because I saw it in the house and all the resources you've reprinted. So yes, I do know how it looks like. It looks like this. Exactly the same, but different colors though. Technically, the designer is the brother of Shem, which is called Sam. And Sam Macdonald is...
It's Sam Phillips. Sam Phillips, yeah.
I know, but it's like Sam and Shem and Sam. Yeah. So that's that. If you do want to know, that's what it is.
It looks very pretty to the eye, even if a lot of beige.
But it is beige, though, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like it's in the desert, so it would be beige. What else would it be? Beige.
But iconography is super clear, as with every Garphill game. Even if it's a quite complex game, even from a couple of turns after you start the game, the first game, you really understand what's happening around. Super clear iconography, super helpful player aids all around the board or the player board, or you also have this big player aid next to your board. So I think from that perspective, it's very, very well done.
And I think it's easy, not just for us that we've played their games, that we've played most of their games, and you know, we know what's what and what to follow. It's easy for new players to follow iconography, and it's, you know, it's very robust. And what I appreciate about this designer is that it does put a lot of thought into oversimplifying things in there so everybody can understand them very easily.
Now, from a theme perspective, I would personally say that it's not my cup of tea. Some people would like it, some people would not like it. But for me, it's not the theme that it shines, it's the game itself that shines.
Yeah, I think the game plays very well. Mechanically is very, very good. Just like, for example, Paladins. I don't understand what I need to do in Paladins, but do I like playing it? Very much. I don't really understand what Paladins is about.
But you went all the time, Paladins.
But it's such an amazing game. It plays so well. And I think this is kind of the same. So whether it's called Ezra and Nehemiah or John and Bob or whatever, it doesn't matter.
John and Bob.
The idea is, I don't think the theme shines particularly in this game, but the game is so mechanically sound, that I don't really care about the theme really.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah? Yeah, I concur.
Do you concur?
I concur.
Do you concur, sir? As we said at the beginning of the video, the game is played from 1 to 4 players. We have played at 2, 3 and 4. And we haven't tried the solo mode, but we know that all Garphill
We didn't
games...
try the solo mode. We tried the solo mode.
Yeah, again.
The royal we.
We will repeat that. We will repeat that in the sense that, you know, if Elena doesn't like a game, then I would potentially try the solo mode. But if Elena does like a game, why would I bother with solo mode? I can bother Elena. Anyway.
That's a bit funny, I must give you that.
But we do know that Garphill Games usually comes with a very strong solo mode. The game plays very good at 2 and 3 and 4. There is minimal things that you need to do in terms of, you know, covering some spaces or making the board a bit more tight for 2 players. So minimal changes, which I appreciate as well. No like extra automa player or something like that.
And replayability, if we do talk about that, because I think I really want to touch upon this on this game, is not necessarily from all the different things that the game gives you to replace or whatnot. You have a couple of tiles that you exchange for your
scroll tiles, yes.
Yeah, and then your tiles that you put on your personal board, you get some different ones for different resources.
Yeah, minor differences.
But they're very minor. I think the replayability comes from the complexity of the game and what kind of strategy you're going to choose. I think that's what it is.
And of course, how the cards come to your hand, because you don't start always with the same cards.
I know, but that's very minimal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when it comes to length, I think after a couple of plays, for a 2-player game, maybe it requires something between 80 to 90 minutes, maybe. For a 3-player game, maybe it's closer to 145, maybe closer to 2 hours. 146, yes. 140 gazillion, right? 6.
Clever.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, for a 4-player game, as with other Garphill games, it might drag a little bit. So I think for me the sweet spot is maybe either 2 or 3, I would say here.
Righty then. Yays and nays.
All right. Who starts first?
Go for it.
Okay, I'll start first.
I'm going to be very generous today.
Okay.
You start.
This is my first yay. The banners. Okay, this is how I call my first yay. It's so challenging, but also such a nice puzzle to collect these banners in your board over the round. And of course, every round you start these banners and collect these banners, accumulate them, and make an action, play again stronger action. Try to squeeze a couple of more banners from your elders and stuff, make it even stronger. This is such a good mechanic. We have seen it again in Adrian's Wall with the tags, not Adrian's Wall, sorry, with in Viscounts of the West Kingdom with the tags. I really like it very, very much. It gives you a lot to consider, and it's a very nice mechanic. It's just a very nice mechanic. I really like when you build your engine and you make your action stronger and stronger and stronger.
And stronger. Yeah. Super strong. My first yay would be the way I was quite impressed by the way you place your cards, the card placement, rather than sliding them across. It's such a simple change, isn't it? Instead of just sliding them across, you just place on top. I have not seen it before. It might have existed in a different game prior to this, but I really like the way it works and it's quite nice.
My second yay is the positive player interaction, especially when it comes to the wall and the construction of the walls and the gates. Because if you build a wall that is next adjacent to a gate, either you build before or after, doesn't matter. When both are built, then both players will get the benefit. And this is something that we saw also in Viscounts again. When you place a building next to another player, you're going to get a connected benefit. And I really like this positive player interaction. Also, another positive player interaction I would like to say is the scrolls, because once one player
Wouldn't that make it another yay?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you have to wait for your turn then.
My yay is about positive player interaction.
My yay is in that case. If we're talking about that. My yay is about how these two designers have this like sneaky way of like implementing a market into the game itself rather than just making a market where you can buy and get resources, which I really like. For example, in this game, if you need a lot of resources, the way you do it is you excavate and you get whatever resources you need from the excavation itself. I really like that very much. And they have done it in different games like Scholars, for example. That one has the same element where like the translators will give you a lot of different benefits and this is how you get your stuff. And I really like the way they implement this. Rather than just boringly go to a market and get something, you kind of excavate to get some extra stuff. You can do the whole action of excavating and building, but just by excavating, you get the resources, plus you get the benefit that is on it as well.
Continue with my player interaction. My third yay is player interaction part B. And this now refers to the scrolls, basically the tech tree that Elena was mentioning earlier. That I can have access to the second or third level scrolls as long as one player, not necessarily me, has placed scribes in the first 2 levels. Yes, I have to give them some coins as a reward, that's fine, but I get to get in the top earlier, which is pretty cool.
Pretty nice, isn't it? Yeah. Another yay, and it might be a teeny tiny one, but I think it does make a difference. The box is not the biggest one in the world, but it's quite thick, but it's absolutely packed with everything. It's very heavy and it's super packed with everything, which I really like. Plus it's the same dimension and as all the other Garphill games we have, so they will stack very well.
As long as they don't have an expansion.
I mean, we're not fans of expansions.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a fan of expansions, but there you go.
I have one more yay, and this is with regards to the main. You have 2 decks of cards. You have the wall cards, but now I'm talking about the main deck of cards, which are basically the banners and the people, yeah. And they're basically multi-use, and this is what I like about the game, the multi-use cards. They can be used as banners during your actions, accumulate them. They can be used for trading, but also they can be used for scoring, end of round scoring during each Sabbath. So it's a lot to think about there, which cards you want to play, which cards you want to commit as scoring, because...
Which banners you lose.
Exactly. So it's a very clever mechanic of the game, and I really appreciate it.
Any more yays?
No, I think I'm done with yays.
Okay, good. We'll start with the nays then.
Yes, nays.
Yes. Do you want to start with the nays?
No, you start.
Okay, thank you. You're very generous today. My first nay would be, and I think this is the thing that bothers me the most in the game. Don't get me wrong, I think it's an amazing game. But I think there is a bit too much emphasis on the outer track itself. I feel that if you're not within the profits, if you're not at the top of the track, you are most likely not going to win the game. Because I think the track gives you so many benefits if you're at the top of it. And it takes so many benefits away from you and points and stuff like that if you're at the bottom of the track, that it dictates too much the outcome of the game. I don't like that very much.
I think in this aspect, it's one of the games that, feel like, again, like Caverna, in the sense that, let's say in Caverna, if only one game does the expeditions, then they're going to win the game. And in this sense, in the same sense, if only one player goes for the ultra strong, potentially they have a good chance to win. Like if he gets the positive benefits, whereas the other players are behind the prophets and they get negative jujus. Okay, but if all players are on top of the prophets, then maybe it's not that much of a difference. I'm not sure.
Did you win last time?
Yes, with Elder. Yes.
I was at the level behind you, and you're at the top, and I was like a penultimate level.
Yes, correct.
And I still lost the game. Like I didn't win the game. Put it that way. No, I didn't lose, but I didn't win the game. And the reason why I didn't win the game is not because I think I did quite well in the wall and all of that, and I had more points. But I think being at the top gave you a lot of like points, a lot of points, which was literally like one ahead, which was quite frustrating.
One name from my side. I think the game can be a bit too complex for some people, and I think if you have some groups that suffer from analysis paralysis, not groups, people, maybe it can be a bit too much in some instances because of the many options the game gives you when it comes to how you're going to play it, how you're going to approach it. And I'm not referring only to the main actions, I'm referring also to developments, like you spend your resources for developments, or you keep your resources to go to the altar, or you keep your resources to build the wall or
the gate,
yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of different strategies there, and I take your point about the altar, but still I believe there are so many things different you can do around. Like in our last game, you went fully on developments, where I was mostly going for the temple and the altar. So that was our game, and then Reese was going for the scribes, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, you won by doing that, and I won by doing that last time before that. So that's kind of, you see my point?
Yeah. But it can initiate some analysis paralysis. So a bit caution there potentially if you play with especially new players that are not very.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can double on that. It's quite thinky, and luckily we're quite fast players. If I take an action and I kind of regret what I did, I just leave it. We just leave it and then, carry on and do something else after, or fix it or whatever. Just enjoy the play and see how the game plays rather than try to get the most optimal move.
Exactly.
Okay then, so that was it for today. Oh, you have another nay? Go for it then.
Well, my other nay, it's very minor, but it's a nay. As Elena mentioned quite a few times, you don't slide the cards, we stack the cards on top of the other.
Amazing.
Sometimes it's a bit hard towards the 5th or the 6th round to very clearly see where you have put 2 cards or not. So sometimes I do my cards like, I shuffle them like that to make sure not to put a 3rd card in the same column, in the same pile. So that's a minor nay, but it's a kind of, if you wish, practical nay from my perspective. So I would like a different way of stacking the cards so it's exactly visible how many cards you have on each pile.
Yeah, but then you don't want to read the banners from the card underneath if you
That's
put
correct.
them.
That's correct.
Display them that way. I don't know. I'm not a designer.
Any other nays from your side?
No, thank you very much.
So shall we go to other game recommendations?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. So, do you start or do I start?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Alright. Okay. Right. For me, the game recommendation is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. In fact, I love Viscounts. It's an amazing game. It's, I think, before I play Ezra and Nehemiah, potentially Viscounts is the best for me from the Garphill Games. But Ezra and Nehemiah has a few elements of Viscounts and a few elements from Paladins and a few elements from other games of Garphill. So for me, Ezra and Nehemiah is the Viscounts killer. So Viscounts killer is still a very good game. It still has some aspects that are different. but I'm not sure if I would comfortably pick Viscounts over Ezra and Nehemiah. But yeah, still,
I mean,
it's a game recommendation because it's
a
still
game
a good
that is,
game.
yeah, it's not as heavy as this one is, but it's still very thinky and it's very enjoyable. So if you don't enjoy something as heavy, then Viscounts is definitely an option.
You are correct. Viscounts is a bit lighter.
Yeah.
You are correct in that. It's a bit easier to play. Yeah, I agree.
Would it be fair for me to say now Paladins is my recommendation because
Yeah, why not?
half of the game is that? The thing is though, with Garphill Games, they're quite unique and there are not very many games out there that do what these games do. So they're quite niche when it comes to that. So I don't know if I can think of anything that is anything similar to this really.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say Paladins of the West Kingdom and say that it's not as heavy as this, but it's that, you know, it doesn't have as much interaction, so it's like more of a solitaire, multiplayer solitaire of some sort. But it's very enjoyable, and yeah, that used to be my favorite Garfield game, and it's been there for a long time.
It is true though that Shem and Sam, I want to say they're a bit more experimental when it comes to their trilogies, their West Kingdom or the South Tigris trilogy. And when it comes to the ancient anthologies, they try to be a bit more selective and check what has worked in the past. Let's try to implement this in a potentially better version of the game. They did the same with Raiders of Scythia, which is basically the Raiders of the North Sea with all the expansions in the same box and I think potentially a couple of more stuff.
Righty then. That was it for today.
Thank you so much for watching our review of Ezra and Nehemiah.
I hope you enjoyed the video.
And see you later.
Bye.